Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison. We see a web of connections between them and those directly involved in the fraud. For example, Ilhan Omar alleged enabling introducing the 2020 Meals Act, which was ultimately subject to fraud, held a campaign victory party at the Safari restaurant. That's where one of the men who run that restaurant has associations to the convicted individuals. And then there's Tim Walz. House Oversight Investigation role in his role as governor. Or Keith Ellison, the Attorney General. His job is to enforce the law in Minnesota, but instead he's getting donations after meeting with the Feeding Our Future representatives. The Feeding Our Future, the biggest known yet part of this entire theft ring.
Yeah, absolutely. This goes way beyond fraud. This is absolute straight up theft and money laundering. This is absolutely straight up criminal activity. And it's tied to the Al-Shabaab regime in Somalia, which makes it terrorism, which is why I'm wondering why we have not seen massive FBI, DOJ, and DNI investigations. It's my thought right now that, frankly, Trump needs to step in and make Tulsi Gabbard head of most of this stuff. Put Tulsi Gabbard in charge of half of this crap. We may need to get rid of Pam Bondi because she's been utterly feckless. We have zero prosecutions. The only person prosecuted for anything so far is the judge in Milwaukee. That's the only successful thing, and that's not even, that was DOJ because it's federal court, but this is just ridiculous. Pam Bondi has done nothing. And now we've got breaking news that this fraud scandal in Minnesota has ballooned, not from a couple $100 million, but it is in excess of $9 billion. Basically half of all of the money that HHS gave to Minnesota in various forms went out to support terrorism and criminal activity. Half, 50%. You can't, oops, we didn't know it was missing nonsense. This is getting ridiculously egregious. Political fishermen, way to thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you rolling up. For everybody who's here in the chat, please smash that like button for me, subscribe, or if you would prefer, wait till the end of the show, and hopefully I've earned that subscription. But if not, please smash that like button for me, as well as share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Really appreciate y'all rolling up. All right, so we've got the breaking news. I want to dive into the fact that they've determined now that this could be in excess of $9 billion worth of fraud. Check this out.
The sickening thing here is that Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, for years, they did nothing. They sat on their hands with this fraud, allowing it to grow to $9 billion. Now, Minnesota's become a national embarrassment. Frankly, they should resign in disgrace. We have clients, we have providers across the state in my district that aren't able to help people now because the money's drying up and there's not as many programs available that people have been relying on to take care of themselves. These vocational rehabs, adults with disabilities, who this was all really meant for.
Hey, they don't need to resign in disgrace. No, they need to be prosecuted for money laundering, criminal fraud, and terrorism. This money went to support Al-Shabaab, a known foreign terrorist organization. This money went into the hands of Democrat operatives and hooligans around the state. It went into the pockets of dozens, hundreds of Somali illegal immigrants. This is the textbook definition of criminal fraud, money laundering, and supporting, aiding, and abetting terrorism. And now Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, they didn't just do nothing. They actively turned a blind eye to this fraud while they prosecuted the whistleblowers. They specifically went after the whistleblowers and tried to cover this up. They successfully covered it up for years, since basically 2020. But now it's being found out and they are guilty and they need to be prosecuted. AKA Pamela Bondi, where are you? Where is Kash Patel of the FBI? nowhere to be found in this case. These people need to be prosecuted to the limit of the law, and they need to be done so in federal court for terrorism. This is just getting ridiculous. It's getting so infuriating to watch the rhino Republicans run around and, scream like a chicken with their head cut off, but do nothing about it. Pam Bondi has so botched the prosecutions of Tish James and James Comey that they're going to walk. It looks like they're going to walk now. Pam Bondi is either incompetent or she's embroiled in malfeasance. It could be that she's a deep state plant that's effectively working counter to the Trump administration. I don't know what's going on there. Let me know what you think in the comments. You did shock me, political fisherman. But Danny7615, absolutely. No one's getting arrested. No one's getting prosecuted. No one's going to prison. Remember, the Democrats put thousands, 1,600 J6 people in prison. They imprisoned Steve Bannon. They imprisoned all sorts of Trump, consultants and administration figures. They took them and they put them in prison for nonsense, even if it was process crimes. Oh, you lied to the FBI. You're going to prison. Where is that from this administration? Where is that from Pam Bondi? All right, let's keep going because this gets actually darker. The web of fraud now lacing into Ilhan Omar is getting deeper and more concrete. Check this out.
Also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. There are also violations of state ethics or of the Minnesota House ethics rules regarding colleges for speeches she gave while she was in partial control of their budgets as a member of the House Higher Education Finance Committee in both 2017 and 2018. She was found guilty of the violations by the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board 3 weeks ago in order to return those funds on June 6th. Ms. Omar appears...
I'm sorry, don't order her to return the funds. If she was found guilty, give her a real sentence. Either put her in prison or deport her. Revoke her fake citizenship and send her back to Somalia. That's what needs to... Ilhan Omar and all of her ilk need to be gone from this country. This is getting ridiculous.
...to be a serial career criminal and should not have access to our nation's highest secrets and intelligence. That is why I'm calling on our Congresswoman Angie Craig to protect both our national security and our respect of the rule of law. Tax fraud, immigration fraud, student loan fraud, perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and campaign abuse fraud from the East Coast to the Mississippi River. If those charges have been also asked...
No, Ilhan Omar is a serial criminal. It began with marrying her brother in order to defraud the United States and get immigration status. Now she is guilty of student loan fraud. She's guilty of campaign finance. She's guilty. She was convicted of campaign finance fraud. Send her out of the country or put her in prison. In either way, Mike Johnson, get her out of Congress. She cannot be guilty of campaign finance fraud and a sitting U.S. congressman. Get her out. This is ridiculous. The rhinos are running the show, and it's absolutely infuriating to me at this point. Now, check this out, because this gentleman is evidently running against Ilhan Omar, and he goes on an 8-minute basically rundown of her crimes. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I want you to catch just a portion of it. Check this out. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Minnesota's 5th Congressional District. And we called together this press conference in the wake of yesterday's article in the Minnesota Reformer about my opponent, Representative Omar. She paid her husband, Tim Minette, $3 million of campaign money. And the way her time in office has given his business access and credibility, as they've misappropriated more than $1 million in money from South Dakota investors. They left workers unpaid and found the funds frozen by the Office of Foreign Assets Control, the U.S. Treasury Department in charge of enforcing sanctions.
So she has basically been laundering money from her campaign account, which is probably coming mostly from this Somali fraud ring. And she's been laundering it into her husband, her now husband's company. Realize that her net worth has gone from basically zero when she came into Congress, 5-6 years ago. It is now north of $40 million. You can't do that on a $150,000 salary. The fraud is evident. It's ridiculous. This is just getting to the point of being absurd and infuriating. And Danny 7615, I don't have any evidence to this, but my gut feel says that this might be the reason that Dan Bongino left. He might have looked at the situation. He might have read the room and said, you know what? No one's ever going to be prosecuted for any of this. They're going to botch this. They're going to they're going to intentionally screw it up, intentionally miss the statute of limitations. He might have looked at this and said, you know what? If nobody's getting prosecuted, if nobody's being held accountable, then there's no reason for me to be assistant director of the FBI. I'll go back home to my wife. I don't know. I don't have any evidence to that effect. I would love Dan Bongino to say it for himself why he left, but the one person that I really trusted in the Trump administration is now gone. The only one now there's two. I should say that there's two left that have demonstrated. Three that have demonstrated by their actual actions that they are trustworthy. DNI Tulsi Gabbard, so far, excellent. Hegseth, excellent. And RFK, frankly, has done what he said he was going to do. He's been on the warpath against some of this stuff. But let's keep going, because here they are talking about the Ilhan Omar fraud, and this is on Fox News with talking about the fact that millions of dollars have gone from the participants in this fraud scheme into Ilhan Omar's pockets. Check this out.
Well, now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds.
This scandal is going to rock the...
Now realize that it was Ilhan Omar that wrote the bill that paved the way for feeding our future. It was Ilhan Omar who put forth and wrote the bill that was so full of holes like Swiss cheese that you could drive a fraud truck right through it. I believe this was premeditated from the get-go. I believe she wrote that bill with the sole intention of, once we get this thing passed, it will be a conduit for HHS money to flow from the federal government into the states in such a ramshackle way that she could then teach people how to defraud it, that she had the system set up, that the racketeering was already done, it was in place, it was ready to go, it was just waiting for the bill. She got the bill passed, and they immediately started to defraud the Minnesota state government out of $9 billion.
Core of Minnesota politics and American politics. We are going to be able to show through whether it be willful blindness, whether it be deliberately turning the other way, or whether it be direct knowledge, we are going to show how Democrat politicians, Democrat bureaucracies, Democrat political systems, and the Somali refugee population ripped off the American people, stole countless taxpayer dollars, and engaged in scams that boggle the mind, scams that we can scarcely even conceive of or imagine in their brazenness. This truly underscores the extent to which the the Democrat Party has used migration as a weapon against the American people to gain political power at the expense of American citizens, stealing their money, stealing their votes, stealing their sovereignty. This is going to be case in point for the argument that President Trump has made about why we must stop mass third-world migration into this country. It is a tool the Democrat Party has used to rob the American people blind.
Well, now
100% correct. Absolutely. Steve Miller is the other guy I trust in this administration because he's one that seems to be actually, desiring to go after everybody. Unfortunately, he doesn't hold the power. Frankly, I think they should take Stephen Miller and make him Attorney General because Pam Bondi, I agree with you. One true move. Pam Bondi's been a complete and utter failure. Complete and utter disaster. Travail de changeau, bonjour. Hey, happy Merry Christmas to you as well. All right. Now, this does not stop and start with Ilhan Omar. Realize that this goes beyond Ilhan Omar. And I'm not just talking about the Minnesota fraud in this case. I'm talking about the wholesale theft of U.S. taxpayer money through any and all means to put into politicians' pockets and into the pockets of the globalist cabal of corruptocrats that are trying to destroy America. Realize that USAID was a $50 billion a year fraud scheme. I'm going to pull this story because it's not just Ilhan Omar. It's not just Minnesota. I believe, if you want my opinion, if it's not 90%, it's half of Congress has been involved in insider trading, money laundering, and the laundering of U.S. taxpayer money via a myriad of departments, USAID, the Department of Education, the Department of Defense, HHS, all of them into their own pockets. I think we should end up investigating and eliminating almost all of sitting congressional members, senators and congressmen, because I think, frankly, almost all of them are guilty. Look at their net worths. Look at how they've ballooned since they've been in Congress. And check this out about Lindsey Graham.
And let me say something.
A bunch of these people laundered billions of dollars out of Ukraine and have been doing it now for years.
And let me say something about Senator Graham. There will be news coming out in the next couple of months about how he has profited financially off of money that came out of Ukraine, laundered through Latvia, and made its way into his bank account. And we're talking significant amounts of money. Department of Justice is looking at it.
All right, those are serious allegations leveled by former CIA officer Larry Johnson. We shall see.
So even the CIA knows these people are laundering money. Realize that we sent, $190 billion to Ukraine, and they can't find 60% of it. So you're talking about $100 billion just floating out there in the ether. It's not floating. It has made its way right back into Democrat and Republican politician pockets. It has made its way into the DNC. It has made its way into things like Act Blue, where they have millions and millions and millions of dollars of small donations that were never donated. People with $13,000 to $15,000 of credit card donations that they never made. And they never complained because they weren't actually on their credit card. No. They've got fraudulent credit cards in people's names overseas, and they just funnel $10 to $15 to $100 to $200 donations. That's how they're laundering this money out of foreign bank accounts into the DNC, into the RNC, into Democrat and Republican establishment pockets. This is going into the globalist cabal of corruptocrats. This is funding the everlasting funding of the deep state. And it has to end. And the only way it's going to end, you've got to cut off the money, but then you've got to prosecute the individuals involved. They all need to go to prison, or it will keep happening and it will only get bigger. They will only be emboldened. There have to be real material penalties paid by these people. Let me know what you think. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications. And if you like the content, please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. And if I don't talk to you before then, please have a wonderful Merry Christmas. Remember that the reason for the season is the fact that Jesus Christ was born. God took on flesh, and became Emmanuel, God with us, for the sole purpose of dying on a cross that we might be forgiven of our sins. And I hope you have a wonderful Christmas day, and let's keep the fight. Keep the fight for our country. Let's keep the fight for truth. Remember, God is sovereign. He is good. It'll all be good in the end. Until I catch you next time. Have a great day.